Captain Elena Vasquez stared at the massive shape floating in the darkness of space. The starship was huge, bigger than anything she had ever seen. It stretched over 1 kilometer long, dark metal covered in strange patterns that seemed to move when she looked at them. This was the Sovereign's Pride, the ghost ship that had scared every alien race in the galaxy for 300 years. Elena stood on the bridge of her small salvage ship, the Lucky Strike. Her crew was nervous. They had good reason to be. The debris field around the ancient ship told a story of failure and death. Broken pieces of alien vessels floated everywhere. HFY pods twisted and burned. Cypherian crystal ships shattered into 1 million glowing fragments. Ships from dozens of other alien races all destroyed or abandoned. "Captain, are you sure about this?" Marcus Webb, her chief engineer, wiped sweat from his forehead. He was a big man with rough hands and a kind heart. He had worked with Elena for 5 years and she trusted him with her life. "The Council is paying us 10 million credits, Marcus. That's enough to fund Earth's outer colonies for 20 years. Elena kept her voice steady, but inside she felt the same fear as her crew. Dr. Sarah Chen, their xenobiologist, studied the readings on her scanner. She was small and quiet, but she knew more about alien life than anyone Elena had ever met. The energy readings are off the charts. Whatever powers that ship, it's not like anything we've seen before. Lieutenant James Park, their AI specialist, shook his head as he looked at his computer screens. Every attempt to scan the ship's computer systems comes back empty. It's like the ship doesn't want to be studied. Elena understood their fear. Every alien race had tried to claim the Sovereign's Pride. The Zephyrians were the smartest species in the galaxy. They could link their minds directly to computers. They had sent their best scientists, and the ship had thrown them out in less than 10 minutes. The HFY were warriors, strong and fierce. Their assault teams lasted even less time. The Veil Dancers could phase in and out of normal space. Even they couldn't stay on the ship. But the Galactic Council had offered humanity a deal. If they could succeed where every other race had failed, Earth would become a full member of the galactic community. If they failed, well, at least they would get paid for trying. The Council thought it was impossible. Humans were new to space, primitive compared to the other races. They had no special powers, no advanced technology. "The ship hasn't fired on anyone in 50 years, Elena said, trying to sound confident. "The last few attempts had just pushed the ships away. Maybe it's getting tired, or maybe it's getting hungrier," Marcus muttered. Dr. Chen looked up from her scanner. "I've been studying the records of every attempt. There's a pattern. The ship doesn't attack right away. It lets people board. Then something happens inside. The survivors all say the same thing. The ship tested them somehow." "Tested them how?" Elena asked. "They don't know. Most of them don't remember much. They just remember feeling like the ship was watching them, judging them. Then they found themselves back on their own ships with no memory of how they got there." James frowned at his computers. The few detailed reports mentioned strange things. Corridors that changed when they weren't looking. Gravity that shifted without warning. Sounds that came from nowhere. Elena made her decision. She had to try. Earth needed the money. And more than that, they needed the respect that would come with joining the galactic community. Humans were treated like children by the other races. They were given the worst trade deals, kept out of important meetings, told they weren't ready for real responsibility. "We're going in," she announced. "But we do this carefully. We stick together, we don't touch anything we don't understand, and if things go bad, we run." The Lucky Strike moved slowly toward the ancient ship. Elena expected weapons to track them, shields to push them away, something to show the ship was aware of them. Instead, the Sovereign's Pride just waited, silent and dark. "There," James pointed at his screen. "Docking bay is opening." Elena felt her heart skip. The ship was inviting them in. No other race had reported this. Every other attempt had to force their way aboard or was turned away before they could dock. "Could be a trap," Marcus said. "Everything about this is a trap," Elena replied. "But we knew that when we took the job." The Lucky Strike slid into the docking bay. The moment they were inside, massive doors closed behind them. Lights came on, showing a bay that looked like it had been waiting for them. The design was strange but beautiful. Flowing curves instead of sharp angles, metal that seemed to glow with its own light. "Atmosphere is good," Dr. Chen reported. "Breathable air, normal pressure. Temperature is perfect for humans." "How does it know what we need?" James asked. Elena stood up and checked her weapon. "Only one way to find out. Marcus, you're with me. Sarah James, monitor from here. If we're not back in 2 hours, leave. Captain, I should go with you, James said. No, someone needs to fly the ship if this goes wrong. That's you. Elena and Marcus put on their spacesuits just in case. They walked to the airlock that connected to the alien ship. Elena's hand shook as she pressed the button to open it. The door slid open without sound. The corridor beyond was huge, big enough for creatures much larger than humans. The walls curved up and met overhead, covered in patterns that seemed to move in their peripheral vision. The floor felt solid under their feet, but it gave slightly like it was alive. This place gives me the creeps, Marcus whispered. Elena nodded but kept walking. Every few steps, lights would turn on ahead of them and turn off behind them, as if the ship was guiding their path. They passed closed doors and branching corridors, but somehow Elena knew they should keep going straight. After 10 minutes of walking, they reached a large room. The walls were covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when they looked at them. In the center of the room was a pedestal with something like a crystal floating above it. Captain? Marcus grabbed her arm. Look. Around the room, faint shapes moved in the shadows. Not quite solid, not quite there. Elena felt like she was being watched by 100 invisible eyes. Hello, she said to the empty air. We're from Earth, we come in peace. The shadows stopped moving. The crystal above the pedestal began to glow brighter. Then Elena heard something that made her blood run cold. A voice speaking directly inside her mind. Another species comes seeking power. Another test begins. You may enter, children of Earth. But know this, every race before you thought they were special. Every race before you thought they deserved what I guard. They were all wrong. Elena looked at Marcus. His wide eyes told her he had heard it too. What do you want from us? Elena asked. The same thing I have wanted for 3 centuries, the voice replied. Someone worthy of the burden. Someone who understands that some power should not be taken, only earned. The test had begun. Elena felt the weight of invisible eyes watching her every move. The voice in her head had gone quiet, but she knew the ship's intelligence was still there, waiting, judging. Marcus stayed close beside her, his hand near his weapon but not drawing it. They both understood that violence would not help them here. We should call the others, Marcus whispered. Elena nodded. She pressed the button on her communication device. Sarah, James, we're okay, but you need to get over here. Bring your equipment, all of it. 20 minutes later, Dr. Chen and Lieutenant Park joined them in the strange room. Both stopped short when they saw the shifting shadows and the floating crystal. My God, Sarah breathed. The energy readings are incredible. This crystal is some kind of power source, but it's nothing like our technology. James pulled out his scanner and pointed it at the walls. The symbols are changing too fast for me to record them. It's like they're alive. They are alive in a way. The voice spoke to all of them now. I am what remains of those who built this vessel. I am their knowledge, their memories, their hope for the future. Elena stepped forward. What happened to them? Your builders? Images flashed in their minds. A beautiful world with crystal cities reaching toward the sky. A race of beings that looked almost like humans, but taller, with skin that shimmered like starlight. They were the architects, masters of technology beyond imagination. They could build stars, move planets, create life itself. We became too proud, the voice said sadly. We thought we could control everything, remake the universe to our will. We nearly destroyed ourselves and everything else in the process. More images came, wars that tore space itself apart, weapons that could erase entire solar systems, the architects fighting among themselves until their civilization crumbled. The wise among us realized our mistake. Before we died out, we built this ship to carry our knowledge, but we made it choose who could have that knowledge. We would not let our pride destroy another race. Elena understood now. You've been testing every species that comes here. Yes. For 300 years I have waited. Every race fails the same way. They see power and want to take it. They see knowledge and want to own it. They do not understand that some things must be earned through wisdom, not claimed through force. The room around them began to change. The walls grew transparent, showing the space outside. But it wasn't empty space anymore. Elena saw a planet below them, green and blue and beautiful. Cities covered the surface, but they were wrong somehow. The buildings were too tall, too sharp, like needles stabbing at the sky. Your first test, the voice explained. This is Zetha Prime, homeworld of the Korthak Empire. Their cities are dying because they used up all their resources. They need help, but they are proud warriors who have never asked for aid. What do you do? Elena looked at her team. This was clearly some kind of simulation, but it felt real. She could smell the air of the planet, feel the heat from its red sun. "We offer help," she said simply. "The Korthak will see it as weakness. They may attack you for the insult. Then we help anyway. People are dying." The scene changed. Now they stood in what looked like a hospital, but the patients weren't human. They were Korthak, the fierce warrior race that had tried to take this ship by force many times. These Korthak were sick, their tough skin gray and cracked. Children lay in beds, too weak to move. A Korthak doctor approached them. His 6 arms gestured angrily as he spoke in his harsh language. Elena's communication device translated his words. "Who are you to come here? We do not need help from inferior species." Dr. Chen stepped forward before Elena could speak. "We're doctors. We have medicine that might help. Please let us try." The Korthak doctor's 4 eyes narrowed. "You lie. You come to study our weakness, to use it against us later." "No," Sarah said quietly. "We come because children are dying, and children shouldn't die if we can prevent it." Marcus moved to one of the beds where a young Korthak lay unconscious. The child looked so small and fragile, nothing like the fierce warriors of stories. "Hey there, little one," he said softly, even though the child couldn't hear him. "Don't worry. We're going to help." The scene shifted again. They were back in the ship, but now they stood in a different room. This one was filled with machines Elena didn't recognize. Technology beyond human understanding. At the center was a chair that seemed to be made of light itself. "Second test," the voice announced. "This is a consciousness transfer device. It can move minds between bodies, even create new bodies that will last forever. The Zephyrians tried to use it to merge with me, to steal my knowledge. The Veil Dancers wanted to escape death itself. What do you do with such power?" James walked around the chair, his scanner beeping frantically. "The technology is incredible. We could solve death itself with this. No more disease, no more aging. But at what cost?" Elena asked. She felt something wrong about the machine, though she couldn't say what. Sarah was studying the readings on her own device. There's something else here. Energy signatures that don't match the machine itself. She looked up, her face pale. "These are consciousness patterns. There are minds trapped in this device." The voice was quiet for a long moment. The previous users of this technology. They transferred their consciousness but found they could not transfer their souls. They exist now as echoes, neither alive nor truly dead. Elena felt sick. "How many?" "Thousands. Every person who tried to cheat death this way became a prisoner of their own ambition." "We have to free them," Marcus said immediately. "You cannot. The process cannot be reversed. But you could ease their suffering by ending the machine's power." Elena looked at the incredible technology, worth more than entire worlds. Any government would kill for this machine. But she thought about the thousands of trapped souls suffering for eternity because someone else wanted to live forever. "Shut it down," she ordered. James stared at her. "Captain, this could revolutionize medicine. We could save millions of lives. By trapping millions of souls, no. Some prices are too high to pay." The machine powered down, its lights fading to darkness. Elena thought she heard something like sighs of relief, though she might have imagined it. The final test came without warning. The room changed again, and they found themselves standing in what looked like a control center. Screens showed star maps, weapon systems, technologies that could reshape galaxies. In the center was a single button, glowing red. "The ultimate test," the voice said. "This ship contains weapons that could destroy entire civilizations. Technologies that could remake the universe itself. One button controls it all. Press it, and you become the most powerful beings in the galaxy. No one could challenge you. No one could hurt your people ever again." Elena stared at the button. She thought about Earth's struggling colonies, about the alien races that treated humans like children, about all the problems this power could solve. "What's the catch?" she asked. "There is no catch. The power is real, but power corrupts. The architects learned this truth too late. Every race that has stood here has pressed that button in their hearts, even if their hands did not move." Elena's hand moved toward the button, then stopped. She thought about Marcus risking his life to help a sick alien child. She thought about Sarah choosing to free trapped souls instead of studying revolutionary technology. She thought about James questioning the value of power without wisdom. She stepped back from the button. "Some power is too dangerous to use," she said. "Some knowledge is too dangerous to have." The voice was quiet for a very long time. Around them, the ship seemed to hold its breath. Finally, it spoke again, and Elena heard something new in its tone. Something like hope. In 300 years, you are the first to walk away from ultimate power. Perhaps there is wisdom in your species after all. The room around them began to glow with soft light. The shadows that had watched them from the corners stepped forward, becoming clearer. They were not quite solid, but Elena could see them better now. Tall figures with skin that seemed to contain starlight, wearing robes that moved like liquid mercury. The architects, or what remained of them. You have passed the first trials, the voice said, and now Elena could see which of the figures was speaking. It was a female architect, taller than the others, with eyes that held the wisdom of ages. But understanding the tests is only the beginning. You must know what you would truly inherit if you choose to stay. The ship changed around them. The walls became transparent, and they found themselves standing in what looked like a vast library. But instead of books, the shelves held glowing crystals, each one containing knowledge beyond human imagination. The room stretched away in all directions, seemingly endless. This is the archive, the architect explained. Every piece of knowledge our civilization ever gathered is stored here. The secrets of creating new stars, the formulas for extending life by thousands of years, the blueprints for weapons that could crack planets in half. Dr. Chen walked to one of the nearby crystals, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. How much knowledge are we talking about? The accumulated wisdom of a civilization that existed for 50,000 years, another architect answered. This one was male, his voice carrying the weight of deep sadness. We explored every corner of this galaxy. We unlocked the secrets of space and time itself. We thought we were gods. Marcus looked around at the endless shelves. What went wrong? Images flashed through their minds again, but these were different from before. Elena saw the architects at the height of their power. They could create new forms of life with a thought. They moved stars like chess pieces to suit their needs. They built worlds and destroyed them when they grew bored. We forgot that knowledge without wisdom is dangerous, the female architect said. We forgot that power without compassion is evil. We began to see other species as inferior, as toys for our amusement. Elena saw darker images now. Entire civilizations enslaved to build monuments to architect glory. Species wiped out because they occupied worlds the architects wanted. Wars fought for entertainment, with billions of lives lost for no reason other than to satisfy architect curiosity about who would win. We became monsters, the male architect admitted. Even when some of us realized what we had become, it was too late. Our society was built on the belief that we deserved to rule the universe simply because we could. What stopped you? James asked. We stopped ourselves, a third architect replied. This one was younger looking, though Elena suspected that meant little among beings who could extend their lives indefinitely. The wise among us recognized that our civilization had become a plague upon the galaxy. We chose to end it before we destroyed everything. The scene changed again. They stood on the bridge of the Sovereign's Pride, watching through the viewports as architect fleets turned their weapons on their own worlds. Cities that had stood for millennia were reduced to dust. Worlds that had been shaped into perfect gardens became lifeless rocks. We destroyed our empire to save the galaxy from ourselves, the female architect said. But we could not bring ourselves to destroy all our knowledge. Future species might be wiser than we were. They might use our discoveries to heal instead of harm. Elena felt the weight of what she was being told. So you built this ship as a test? Yes. We encoded our consciousness into the ship's AI systems before our bodies died. We have waited here for 3 centuries, hoping to find a species mature enough to inherit our legacy without repeating our mistakes. The young-looking architect stepped closer to Elena. Every species has failed because they saw only the power they could gain. The Zephyrians wanted to merge with our technology to become gods themselves. The Korthak wanted our weapons to conquer their enemies. The Veil Dancers sought our life extension technology to become immortal rulers. But you, the female architect said, her voice filled with something like wonder, you walked away from ultimate power. You chose to protect trapped souls over advancing your science. You offered help to dying children even when their parents threatened you. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. We just did what seemed right. That is exactly why you are different, the male architect said. You have not yet lost your moral center to the pursuit of power. But the question remains, can you keep it if we give you the tools to reshape the galaxy? Elena looked at her crew. They were good people, but they were still human. Humans had their own history of wars and cruelty. their own capacity for evil when given too much power. I don't know, she said honestly. I'd like to think we could, but I can't promise that. Power changes people. It might change us too. The architects were silent for a long moment. Then the female one began to laugh, a sound like silver bells in the wind. Do you know why that answer gives me hope? She asked. Because you doubt yourself. Every species that failed here was certain they deserved our knowledge. They never questioned whether they were ready for it. The ship's bridge faded away and they found themselves in a new room. This one was smaller, more intimate. Comfortable chairs surrounded a table made of some kind of living wood that glowed with its own light. The architects sat down and Elena's team followed their example. There is something else you must understand, the young architect said. Accepting our legacy is not just about gaining knowledge. It is about accepting responsibility for how that knowledge is used. Dr. Chen leaned forward. What kind of responsibility? The responsibility to guide your species as they grow into this power, the female architect explained. To make sure they do not repeat our mistakes. To protect the galaxy from the dangers our technology could create. You would become the guardians of our legacy, the male architect added. Not its owners, but its caretakers. You would decide what knowledge to share and when. You would judge whether your people are ready for each new discovery. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. That's an impossible burden. How could we decide something like that? How could anyone? The same way we should have, the young architect said sadly. With wisdom, with caution, and with the understanding that some knowledge should never be used, no matter how great the temptation. James looked around at the architects. What happens to you if we accept? Do you finally get to rest? We do not know, the female architect admitted. We have existed in this limbo for 3 centuries, bound to our duty as guardians. Perhaps we will find peace at last. Perhaps we will simply fade away. We are ready for either fate. The male architect stood and walked to a wall that showed the stars outside. There is one more thing you must see before you decide. The true scope of what we offer. The room vanished, and suddenly they were floating in space, surrounded by the infinite darkness between stars. But Elena could see things that should have been impossible to see with the naked eye. She saw the currents of energy that flowed between galaxies. She saw the birth of new stars and the death of old ones. She saw civilizations rising and falling across thousands of worlds. This is how we learn to see the universe. The young architect's voice came from everywhere and nowhere, not as separate worlds and separate species, but as one vast connected whole. Every action affects everything else. Every choice ripples across space and time. Elena saw Earth in the distance, a tiny blue dot barely visible among billions of other stars. But she also saw its potential. She saw the colonies that humans might build, the species they might meet, the wonders they might discover. She also saw the wars they might fight, the mistakes they might make, the civilizations they might destroy if they gained too much power too quickly. Now you begin to understand the burden, the female architect said. To accept our legacy is to accept responsibility for the future of the galaxy itself. They returned to the intimate room with the living wood table. Elena looked at her crew, seeing her own doubts reflected in their faces. Why us? She asked. Why humans? We're not the smartest species or the strongest or the most advanced. Because you are young, the male architect replied. Because you still remember what it means to struggle. Because you have not yet forgotten that power should serve compassion, not the other way around. Every other species came here with certainty, the young architect added. You came here with humility. That may be the most important quality of all. Elena closed her eyes and tried to think. The decision felt too big for one person to make. It wasn't just about her crew or even about humanity. It was about the future of every species in the galaxy. When she opened her eyes, the architects were watching her with expressions of infinite patience. What happens if we say no? She asked. You leave with our blessing and the knowledge that your species has wisdom beyond its years, the female architect said. Eventually another species will come and we will test them as we tested you. And if we say yes, then your real education begins. Elena felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her like a physical force. Around the table her crew waited for her to speak. The architects watched with patient eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. The ship itself seemed to hold its breath. I need to talk to my crew, Elena said finally. Alone? The architects nodded and faded away like morning mist. Elena and her team found themselves alone in the room, though she suspected they were still being watched somehow. Marcus was the first to speak. "Captain, this is bigger than anything we imagined. They're not just offering us a ship. They're offering us the power to reshape the galaxy." "That's exactly the problem," Dr. Chen said, her voice tight with worry. "Look what that power did to them. They destroyed their own civilization because they couldn't handle it responsibly." James pulled out his scanner and stared at the readings. "The technology here is beyond anything we've ever seen. Just the medical advances alone could save billions of lives, but—" He trailed off, shaking his head. "But power corrupts," Elena finished. "Even good people with good intentions can be corrupted by too much power." "So what do we do?" Marcus asked. "Walk away from the greatest discovery in human history?" Elena stood up and paced around the room. "Think about it from their perspective. Why did they really choose us? We're not special. We're not the smartest or strongest species in the galaxy. We're barely out of our own solar system. Maybe that's exactly why they chose us," Dr. Chen said slowly. "Because we're still learning. Because we haven't convinced ourselves that we know everything. The other species that came here," James added, "they were all advanced civilizations. They probably thought they deserved this power because of their achievements." Elena nodded. "But we know we don't deserve it. That might be the only qualification that matters." She stopped pacing and looked at each of her crew members. "Here's what I think. If we take this responsibility, we can't do it for humanity's benefit. We have to do it for everyone's benefit. Every species in the galaxy, even the ones that don't like us." Marcus frowned. "That's a hell of a burden to carry." "It is. And it gets worse. We'd have to live for centuries, maybe thousands of years, to properly guard this knowledge. The architects said accepting their legacy would change us. We might not even be fully human anymore when it's done." Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment. "My daughter is back on Earth," she said finally. "She's only 5 years old. If I accept this, I might not see her grow up. I might outlive her by thousands of years." Elena felt her heart break a little. She hadn't thought about the personal cost. "Sarah, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do," Dr. Chen interrupted. "Because if we don't take this responsibility, someone else will eventually. Maybe someone who wants the power for the wrong reasons. Maybe someone who would use it to hurt people instead of help them." James looked up from his scanner. "There's something else to consider. The Galactic Council. They're expecting us to either die trying to claim this ship or come back empty-handed. What happens when we return with technology beyond their understanding?" Elena had been thinking about that too. "They'll want to take it from us. Every government, every military leader, every corporation will want a piece of this technology. So we don't tell them," Marcus said. "We keep it secret. For how long? This ship is too big to hide. Its technology is too advanced to keep quiet. Eventually everyone will know." Elena sat back down at the table. The weight of the decision seemed to grow heavier with every passing moment. "There's one more thing," she said quietly. "If we accept this responsibility, we're not just guarding architect technology. We're guarding it from our own species. We might have to say no to Earth's government when they ask for weapons to defend the colonies. We might have to watch people die because we can't share knowledge that would save them." The room was silent for a long time. Elena could hear the soft hum of the ship's systems, the distant whisper of air recyclers, the quiet breathing of her crew. Finally, Dr. Chen spoke. "I keep thinking about those children on the Korthak world, the ones who were dying because their people were too proud to ask for help. How many more children are dying right now because the knowledge to save them is locked away? But how many more would die if that knowledge fell into the wrong hands?" James countered. "The architects had medical technology that could extend life for thousands of years. They also had weapons that could destroy entire star systems." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "Maybe that's the real test. Not whether we're worthy of the power, but whether we're willing to carry the burden of deciding who else is worthy." Elena closed her eyes and tried to imagine the future. If they walked away, they would return to Earth with nothing but the story of what they had found. The Galactic Council would be impressed that they had survived, but humanity would remain on the outside of galactic politics. Earth's colonies would continue to struggle. Humans would continue to be treated as second-class citizens among the stars. But if they accepted the architect's legacy, everything would change. Humanity would suddenly become the most powerful species in the galaxy. That power would bring its own problems. Wars fought to control the technology. Governments overthrown by those who wanted access to architect knowledge. The very real possibility that humans would repeat the architect's mistakes and become the galaxy's new tyrants. There's no right answer, is there? She said finally. No, Dr. Chen agreed. There's just the answer we can live with. Elena opened her eyes and looked at her crew. These 3 people had followed her into the unknown, trusted her judgment in the face of impossible odds. Now she was asking them to trust her with a decision that would affect the entire galaxy. If we do this, she said slowly, we do it together, all of us or none of us. And we do it with the understanding that we might have to make choices that hurt people we care about. We might have to say no to our own families, our own governments, our own species. Marcus nodded grimly. I understand. James put away his scanner. I'm in. Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment longer. My daughter will grow up in whatever galaxy we create with this decision. I want it to be a better galaxy than the one we found. Elena felt a strange sense of calm settle over her. The decision was made even if she hadn't spoken it yet. The architects materialized around the table again, as if they had been waiting for this moment. You have decided, the female architect said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Elena replied. We accept the responsibility. But we have conditions. The male architect raised an eyebrow. Conditions? We don't isolate ourselves from the galaxy. We use this ship to travel, to learn about other species, to understand their needs and their dangers. We don't make decisions about architect technology from a distance. We make them by staying involved with the people those decisions affect. The young architect smiled. You would make yourselves ambassadors as well as guardians. Something like that, Elena said. We also want the right to train others eventually. Not to replace us, but to help us. The burden shouldn't fall on just 4 people forever. And we want to start slowly, Dr. Chen added. No sharing of dangerous technology until we're sure it can be used safely. Medical advances first, weapons last? If ever, James said firmly. The architects looked at each other, having some kind of silent conversation. Finally, the female architect nodded. Your conditions are wise, she said. They show that you understand the true nature of the responsibility you are accepting. What happens now? Elena asked. Now you begin the most difficult part of your journey, the male architect replied. Learning to live with power you pray you never have to use. The room began to change around them, the walls becoming transparent again. Elena could see the Lucky Strike still docked in the ship's bay, but it looked small and fragile now, a reminder of the simple life they were leaving behind. There is no ceremony, the young architect said. No ritual to mark the transfer of responsibility. You simply choose to accept it, and the burden becomes yours. Elena stood up and her crew stood with her. We accept it. The architects smiled, and for the first time since Elena had met them, they looked peaceful. Then welcome to your new lives, guardians of the architect legacy. May you prove wiser than we were. The moment Elena spoke the words of acceptance, everything changed. The ship around them came alive in ways she hadn't imagined possible. She felt a presence touch her mind, not invasive but welcoming, like a hand extended in friendship. The Sovereign's pride was no longer just a vessel they were exploring. It was becoming part of them. The sensation was overwhelming at first. Elena could suddenly feel the ship's vast systems as if they were extensions of her own body. She knew without looking that the engines were running at optimal efficiency, that the shields were powered but not active, that thousands of automated systems were maintaining the ship's functions. More than that, she could sense the ship's emotions, its loneliness after centuries of isolation, its hope now that it finally had partners worthy of its trust. Her crew was experiencing the same transformation. Marcus gasped and put his hand to his forehead as engineering knowledge flooded his mind. Not all of it. That would have destroyed his sanity. But enough to understand how the ship's incredible technology worked. Dr. Chen staggered as biological data from 1,000 worlds filled her consciousness. Medical knowledge that could revolutionize healthcare across the galaxy. James fell to his knees as he connected with the ship's AI systems, his mind expanding to comprehend computer technology, centuries beyond anything humans had achieved. The bonding process will take time, the female architect explained, her voice now coming from everywhere at once as she merged fully with the ship's consciousness. Days, perhaps weeks, before you can access our full knowledge safely. Your minds need time to adapt. Elena felt her own transformation beginning. Her vision seemed sharper, her thoughts clearer. She could perceive energy patterns that had been invisible before, see the flow of power through the ship's systems like glowing rivers of light. But more than the enhanced abilities, she felt the weight of responsibility settling into her very bones. The Galactic Council fleet is approaching, the young architect warned. 15 ships heavily armed. They grow suspicious of your success where all others have failed. Elena looked out through the transparent walls and saw the approaching vessels, sleek Zephyrian cruisers with their crystal hulls gleaming in the starlight, brutal Korthak battleships bristling with weapons, ships from a dozen other species, all coming to investigate why a primitive human salvage vessel had been docked with the legendary ghost ship for so long. They want answers, Elena said. And they will demand the ship, the male architect added. Every species in that fleet has tried to claim our legacy. They will not accept that humans succeeded where they failed. Marcus struggled to his feet, his eyes wide with new understanding. Captain, the weapons on this ship. We could destroy that entire fleet without breaking a sweat. No, Elena said immediately. That's exactly the kind of thinking that corrupted the architects. We don't win through superior firepower. We win through wisdom. The ship's communication systems activated without Elena touching any controls. The bridge was filled with the sounds of angry alien voices demanding explanations. The Zephyrian fleet commander's crystalline tones cut through the chaos. Human vessel, you will withdraw from the derelict immediately. That ship contains technology too dangerous for your primitive species. Elena stepped forward, and the ship somehow amplified her voice, so it reached every vessel in the approaching fleet. This is Captain Elena Vasquez. The Sovereign's pride is no longer a derelict. It has chosen its guardians. The response was immediate and predictable. Weapons powered up across the alien fleet. Targeting scanners locked onto the Sovereign's pride. The Korthak battle commander's growling voice filled the channel. Impossible. No species has ever successfully claimed that vessel. You lie! We didn't claim it, Dr. Chen said, stepping up beside Elena. Her voice was steady despite the knowledge flooding her mind. We earned its trust. Semantics, the Veil Dancer representative hissed, its voice seeming to come from several dimensions at once. Surrender the vessel or we will take it by force. Elena felt the ship's weapon systems responding to the threat, powerful beyond imagination and ready to defend itself. All she had to do was give the word and the attacking fleet would cease to exist. The temptation was stronger than she had expected. Show them, she said instead. The Sovereign's pride responded to her request in a way that took Elena's breath away. The space around the ship began to change, reality bending in ways that should have been impossible. Stars moved in the viewports not because the ship was moving, but because the ship was moving them. The alien fleet found themselves surrounded by dancing lights as stellar matter responded to the ship's will. This is what you came seeking, Elena broadcast to the fleet. Power beyond your comprehension. Technology that could remake the galaxy. But power like this comes with a price. Are you willing to pay it? The demonstration lasted only seconds, but it was enough. The alien fleet's weapons powered down as their crews realized they were facing something far beyond their ability to threaten or contain. What price? The Zephyrian commander asked, his voice now cautious rather than demanding. The price of wisdom, James answered, his new understanding of the ship's systems allowing him to speak with authority. The price of putting the galaxy's welfare above your own species' advancement. Elena opened a communication channel to the council chambers on the distant capital world. Within minutes, the faces of the Galactic Council appeared on the ship's screens, representatives of dozens of species, all staring at her with expressions ranging from awe to fear. Council members, Elena began, humanity accepts the responsibility that comes with guardianship of architect technology. But we do not accept it for humanity alone. We accept it for all species, including those who have been our enemies. The council chamber erupted in debate. The Korthak representative roared his objections. The Zephyrian delegate demanded proof of human competence. Others questioned whether any species could be trusted with such power. Elena let them argue for several minutes before speaking again. The architects fell because they believed their advanced technology made them superior to other species. We will not make that mistake. The Sovereign's pride will serve as a mobile embassy, traveling between worlds offering aid where it's needed and guidance where it's requested. And the weapons? The council president asked. She was an Altarian, one of the older species known for their wisdom and caution. What of the technologies that could destroy civilizations? They remain sealed, Elena said firmly. Some knowledge is too dangerous to share. Some power is too great to use. The architects learned this lesson too late. We intend to learn it in time. Dr. Chen stepped forward. But medical knowledge that can save lives, that we will share freely. Agricultural techniques that can feed hungry worlds, those we will teach to anyone who asks. We're not here to hoard knowledge, but to make sure it's used wisely. The debates continued for hours. Some council members accused humanity of stealing the ship. Others demanded that the technology be shared equally among all species. A few suggested that the ship should be destroyed rather than allow any one species to control it. Through it all, Elena felt the weight of the architect's consciousness supporting her. They had faced similar challenges when they were young, before power corrupted them. They understood the delicate balance between sharing knowledge and protecting the galaxy from its misuse. Finally, the council president called for order. The question before us is simple, she said. Do we trust humanity to guard this legacy responsibly? The vote was closer than Elena had hoped. 57 species voted in favor of human guardianship. 43 voted against. 12 abstained. It was enough, but barely. The council recognizes human guardianship of architect technology, the president announced. But we demand regular reports and the right to review any decisions regarding the sharing of that technology. Elena nodded. Agreed, transparency is essential. We have nothing to hide and everything to prove. As the communication ended, Elena felt the ship beginning to move. They were leaving the neutral zone, beginning their new mission as guardians and ambassadors. Through the ship's sensors, she could feel the alien fleet following at a respectful distance, no longer threatening but still watchful. Where are we going? Marcus asked. Elena smiled, feeling the ship's consciousness guide her toward their first destination. The Outer Rim colonies, human settlements that have been struggling with crop failures. We have agricultural technology that could help, and it's simple enough to share safely. Starting small, Dr. Chen agreed. Starting human, James added. Proving we can help our own people without becoming tyrants. Elena nodded. It would take years, maybe decades, to prove that humanity could handle the responsibility they had accepted. They would make mistakes, she was certain of that. But they would learn from those mistakes, just as the architects should have learned from theirs. The Sovereign's pride jumped to hyperspace, carrying its human guardians toward an uncertain future. In the depths of the ship, the architect consciousness finally began to fade, their long duty complete. They had found successors worthy of their legacy, not because humans were perfect, but because they understood their own imperfections.